the mindsets that allow them to achieve their best possible results. Please welcome to the stage Scott Carr.
Such a privilege to be with you here today. And I'm so excited, like everyone else, to learn how each of us can find a way to build our own personal futures to the best of our abilities. And it's around our own ability to create, to manufacture our best possible future that draws my keen interest in this conversation. Let me ask you a question. When you consider your own future, is it something nebulous, you can't quite put your finger on it? Or have you decided in advance to make it definite? And with respect to time, is it out there somewhere on the distant horizon? Or do you know in fact that it's 3 to 5 years down the road? You see, the reason I ask is that it's been my observation that the way we choose to treat or shape our own future has everything to do with the degree that we allow our past to impact our present. And what I mean by that is that when we allow our past disappointments and regrets to impact how it is that we show up in the present, we're sure to get more of our past in our future, aren't we? If, on the other hand, we were able to look at our future as if it was our best possible experience, and we were able to construct the positive emotions behind that, and a burning desire and the focus and discipline that it would take to step into that picture. And we were bold enough to surround ourselves with the types of people that would give us permission to have that vision. If we could show up like that consistently, day to day, the neuroscientific evidence that we have today would suggest that eventually we couldn't help but step into the picture that we've created in our minds. So I encourage you to look at your own future as if it were a blank canvas, the best possible representation of you in color, tone, and effect. And should you be able to do that, you'd be embarking on an intentional future, something you could most definitely begin to influence and impact. Give that a try. And so now I would like to explain to you 5 mindsets as exemplified by 5 people who most definitely shifted their thinking to create their best possible futures. Meet Felix Baumgartner. Mindset 1, get out of your comfort zone. Meet Felix Baumgartner. Here, excited after landing another jump. Why is Felix so excited, you might ask? Well, that's because that landing emerged from this beginning, some 40,000 meters above the New Mexico desert, where in 2012, Felix became the first person to record a 4.5-minute free fall intentionally. And in so doing, Felix became the first person to actually break the sound barrier. And what's remarkable about this feat is that Felix choosing to make his future certain, absolute, he trained for 5 years with nutritionists and psychologists and other specialists for that one moment. Now, with respect to getting out of our comfort zone, I'm sure you'll agree with me that at about 39,500 meters, when Felix stood up in his delivery vessel and he chose to disengage his oxygen supply, leaving him with 10 minutes of air left to breathe. And as he took a step and a half to the edge of the vessel, while he had a beautiful view some 40 kilometers above the earth, would you agree with me that at that point in time, Felix was outside of his comfort zone? Absolutely. In fact, as I began to research Felix, there was one phrase from his biography that told me everything that I needed to know. And that was, when Felix was a kid, he dreamed of flying through the sky. Felix had a clear picture of what he wanted. He created the images in his mind, and he dreamt about it daily. So what I'm suggesting to you is that Felix's 40,000-meter jump started when he was just 6 years old. He took the necessary actions thereafter, learning to parachute as an early teen, joined the Air Force at the earliest possible age, and continued to test his limits in a safe jumping environment, jumping from 1,000 meters 2,000, 5,000, learning to base jump in a remarkable way. And I'm going to suggest to you that Felix slowly but surely became comfortable with discomfort. It became a skill for him, like yoga or tennis, and he applied that to everything that he did, including this. So my question for you would be, has remaining inside of your comfort zone prevented you from achieving your goals? Mindset 2, fail forward. Meet Diana Nyad, the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without a shark tank. Incredible individual and an incredible journey. And no matter how difficult her training was leading up to this swim, and how lonely it was for the 85 hours in the water that it took to get to the other shore, Diana was able to replace all negative thought and all fear and doubt with 3 simple words, and that was find a way. Diana auto-suggested her way across that ocean. Would it help you to understand failing forward better if you understood that Diana failed on 4 previous attempts to swim from Florida to Cuba? And would you understand perseverance and persistence better if you understood that Diana was 64 years old when she completed the Orange Line successful swim? And that's because whether it was currents that took her in the wrong direction, or whether it was an asthma attack that she couldn't overcome, or twice jellyfish stings which left her extremities numb, every time Diana unsuccessfully completed that swim, she had a stronger kernel of belief in her mind that she could absolutely do it, as long as she didn't quit and as long as she surrounded herself with the types of people that wouldn't let her quit. And that's just it, isn't it? We don't get that memo growing up from our parents or schools often enough, do we? But the fact of the matter is, the most successful people are simply willing to fail the most. The brands and the gurus that you subscribe to that influence you today, I'm going to suggest they have failed their way forward repeatedly. And after they fell off their horse, they became vulnerable, they got up, they were willing to fail again, and they simply wouldn't quit. Failure after failure. Do you have that type of dream? Are you willing to fail yourself forward and pick yourself up every time you fall down and not let doubt creep in? And most importantly, if you don't get shortlisted for a job or a key relationship in your life dissolves, what is it that you tell yourself when you face adversity? Mindset 3, fully commit. Now, Steve Nash looks pretty comfortable with that MVP trophy, doesn't he? And a lot of NBA pundits would suggest that Steve was a surefire bet to make the NBA. I can tell you that is the farthest thing from the truth. I have the privilege, a unique one, to have watched Steve play basketball not far from here as a grade 12 student. And I can tell you, while he was really, really good, there was nothing that suggested in his game that he would become a 5-time NBA All-Star and a 2-time league MVP. But you see, Steve pre-selected his career, his ultimate goal. When he was 15, he told his mother and his key friends, I'm going to play in the NBA. And he backfilled that with emotion. He worked his butt off until he got there, and he surrounded himself with the types of people that would support his vision. So when the Canadian coaches came to recruit Steve in grade 12, he was polite and he listened. But he told them honestly, if I'm going to play in the NBA, I must go to the United States to become a better athlete. How else would you explain leveraging one U.S. scholarship into an NBA Hall of Fame career? That's because Steve always knew that belief trumps talent. What is it that prevents us from fully committing today? I'm going to suggest to you it's because we live in an age of continual partial distraction. Hands up if you've gone to your device to check a calendar appointment, and next thing you know, you're into some emails and some texts, and you forgot to know why you went to your device in the first place. Yes, anybody? Absolutely. It's so difficult to be present in one moment with one task today with everything that's coming at us. So what we do is we tend to multitask, don't we? We put 2 or 3 balls in the air, neither of which get our full attention. How many of you would like to procrastinate less? I know I certainly would like to learn that magic touch. The reality of it is that we somehow wait for the magic moment when all factors are perfect to go forward with the task, but we know we have to create our own energy and our own momentum no matter what, don't we? Either way, in the age of continual partial distraction, we We end up with lower achievement levels, but we're not even aware of it. Your own belief levels will decide how you interpret that word. Steve looked at that and simply said, "I'm possible." The fact of the matter is, Steve Nash had a 0.03% chance as a grade 12 basketball player to make the NBA. And the fact that he's from Victoria, I'd push that probability a little bit lower, wouldn't you agree? That statistic didn't apply to Steve because 100% he had pre-selected where he was going and there was nothing that was going to stop him. My question for you is, what is it that interferes with your ability to fully commit to your goals? Mindset 4, growth mindset. Meet Bethany Hamilton, championship surfer based in Hawaii. Perhaps you've heard of her. And while Bethany has won her fair share of championships in surfing, she's far better known for the inspirational awards that have come her way. That's because when Bethany was 13 years old, a shark took her left arm. Shocking, life-changing stuff, yes? Except it didn't change Bethany's life much at all. With a growth mindset, she simply told herself, if I can surf with 2 arms, why can't I surf with 1? So despite that trauma, within a month, Bethany was back up surfing on a longboard. And within 3, she was back in competitions. Carol Dweck at Stanford University has spent her academic professional career researching the types of responses that elementary students have to the type of praise that they're given. And when we as parents and as teachers praised fixed mindset characteristics like intelligence, like looks, what we end up with is students who are unwilling to take risks and fail forward at all costs, regardless of their intelligence or where they're at. People like Bethany, on the other hand, when they're praised for characteristics that they can develop, for example, on the basis of getting great marks, she worked hard and she was able to focus. Or she was a leader of a captain of a team, perhaps, because she was able to show compassion, not because she was popular or attractive. Those types of people do take risks and routinely fail forward. So my question to you would be, if you had a growth mindset, which you could develop at any point in time based on your own conversations, how would a growth mindset affect your results over your lifetime? Mindset 5, believe in yourself. You recognize that guy? I certainly do, and I have a personal connection, like many of you, I'm sure, to Terry Fox. When I was growing up on the shores of Lake Ontario, my mother woke me up very early one morning, and I'll never forget the look of pure desire and total focus and commitment of Terry Fox running along Lakeshore Boulevard with his small entourage. It was remarkable. It was indelible, and it was lasting. But my question for you is, what propels one person to run across Canada on one leg with a dream? And the reality of it is the story of Terry Fox was that he was so impacted by the disappointments and the pure heartbreak that he experienced himself with cancer and other cancer survivors that he was around in his comeback, that he had to do something about it. He couldn't sit idly. And so he had this idea around the Marathon of Hope. He figured out how to work the prosthetic. He began to train, and he took action. And while Terry's dream outlived him, it did so to the tune of $650 million in cancer research that the Terry Fox Foundation has raised. Now, in my journey, I'll be honest with you, there really are 2 types of people. This is what I've observed. There are those that allow their past disappointments and regrets to impact how they show up and commit in the present. These 5 people, however, allowed a clear picture of their future. They decided to make it certain on their timeline, and they allowed that future vision to dictate what they did in the present. These 5 individuals were not special. They didn't go to a certain school or come from a certain town or have a certain last name. But they absolutely committed to transforming their thinking to achieve their results and lasting, enduring legacies. So in shifting your thinking to achieve your own best possible future, it's absolutely vital that you get comfortable with discomfort, that you commit to failing forward, that you're able to achieve focus and fully commit and keep the age of continual partial distraction at arm's length. Like Bethany, you learn to develop a growth mindset and leverage that over your lifetime. And that you're not just interested in your dream and all the noise and hype all around you. There's a big difference between being interested and being committed. So being committed to believing your dream is absolutely vital. And despite the roadblocks and the challenges that come your way, and everything that gets thrown in front of you and the doubters that begin to whisper in your ear, I encourage you, and in fact, I implore you to do whatever you can to find a way. Thank you.